after we do the roll call, I'll try to address that before we go to Mr. Phillips. So. Okay, I've got 7 o'clock. Dean, are you up and we're good? Okay. All right, good evening and welcome to the April board meeting of the South Range Board of Education. Mr. Phillips, would you please call the roll?
Brian Bagwell. Here. Taylor Christian. Here. Terry Lally. Here. Amy White. Here. Ralph Wentz.
Here. First item on the agenda would be the pledge. Can we stand for that, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Before we go on to the minutes and financial report, I'd like to say to anybody out there, if you have a question or would like to send an email to Mrs. Lally anytime on either agenda item or non-agenda items, we will try to do the best of our ability to answer that question before we go back through and vote on everything. If you don't have it, I'll read her email out loud here. If you can write it down, it's fairly easy. It's t.lally, L-A-L-L-Y, @southrange.org. So if anybody out there has a question on the agenda item or anything non-agenda related, if you would email that to Mrs. Lally, and we will check her email before we get to that far. Next up would be the approval of the minutes from our March 16th as well as our March 30th meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I move.
Okay, Amy moves. Do I have a second?
I second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And on to Mr. Phillips and the treasurer's report.
Okay, our regular general fund had $4,637,643.42. Our bond retirement fund is up to $1,490,362.98, but we do have a June 1st payment due, just under $1 million, if I recall correctly. Our total all funds as of the end of March, $6,517,623.96. I will add that that does include all but the final settlement for the spring property tax collections. And the final settlement's usually a smaller one compared to the advances that we get. So of the $6,678,091.74, we have at Farmers Bank $5,395,014.80. At Home Savings, $1,042,197.01. Star Ohio, $240,879.93. Our outstanding checks, $161,247.78, and our petty cash account, $780. And when you do all the math, that we have $6,517,623.96.
Okay, are there any questions on the treasurer's report? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report. Taylor moves. Can I have a second? Brian seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And on to new business and district reports. Mr. Dunham.
Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, I do not have building level principals or other departmental heads or directors here this evening. The only thing, if there's something for H or I legislative liaison or student achievement, Mrs. Lally or Mr. Christian, anything there? Okay. Thank you, President Winston, Vice President Lally. I am going to kind of give another state of the schools here with the governor's decision this afternoon. I wanted to share with everyone later on some of the things that we're looking at, where we've been since March 16th, obviously the last board meeting, until the present. So if we can go through the agenda, I'd be happy to when it comes time for a report, I'll be happy to share and update the board and our audience the best I can.
Okay. Next up, first item beyond that would be the approval of the class of 2020 for graduation.
Okay. Let me begin by just saying congratulations to the class of 2020. Certainly a class that in normal times we wouldn't forget, and in these times, I think the best way I can describe it is, there's, after the governor's orders today of to again close schools for the remainder of the year and to instruct remotely, which we've been doing a great job of. There's lots of sadness, I think, throughout the state, not being able to follow through and end the school year like we've known for, well, all of our lives. So with that said, this resolution is the approval of members for the class of 2020 for graduation, asking the board to conditionally approve for commencement the following senior students. We have, I believe, 119. These students must satisfactorily meet all the requirements for graduation of South Range local schools, State Board of Education, Ohio Legislature, Mahoning County Career and Technical Center, and the Governing Board of Mahoning County Educational Service Center. You can see before you the seniors that we'll be recognizing either May 30th or an alternate date, which I can talk about later on at this meeting.
Okay, next up would be the policies that we received last month for board policy adoption. Mr. Dunham or any of the board members, do you have anything to say or questions to ask? Okay, next up then on new business would be the bus bid authorization. Mr. Dunham?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Phillips, and I can talk about it, but Mr. Phillips has a little information potentially on bus grant.
Yeah, the state is awarding bus grants now. We applied, and the amount they would give to us is $31,749.55. As you may recall from recent bus purchases, recent being the last couple of years, a bus costs about $85,000. We usually get a trade-in for $2,000 or $3,000. So of the $81,000 or $82,000 that we would pay, the grant would cover $31,750 roughly for it.
And just because we are going out for bid, if we so decide as a board, does not mean we have to accept the bid, but this would allow us to go out for bid, and then once the bids were received, we could make the decision whether we were going to accept the bid, correct?
Right. Okay. I think it's a good point. If the board so choose and decided this isn't the climate for a bus, no harm, no foul. We know what the bus bid would be, but we're under no obligation to purchase it.
Okay, next up would be the resolution that we need to pass to be able to conduct board meetings by electronic technology during this period of emergency declared by Executive Order 2020-01D. And Mr. Dunham, would you speak to that a little bit, please?
Okay. So in our current policy, there was never the thought of COVID-19 and pandemics in terms of closing the district down or the state down. This resolution permits us to suspend our current policy that's in place and permits us to conduct meetings virtually. This is kind of a hybrid meeting we're having tonight. You can see we have 5 board members, treasurer, superintendent here. The rest of the building is closed to those residents or community members that would like to attend. However, this policy allows us to, and this is pursuant to House Bill 197, to conduct meetings either by combination of meeting in person or maintaining social distancing, which you can observe now, or by virtual attendance. And you can see some boards have decided to do what we're doing, and other boards have 100% just virtually by remotely, electronic means during the duration of the declared emergency. So this is through December 1st of 2020. The other piece to this, it suspends our public participation of board meetings for any and all provisions regarding in-person public comment. So it doesn't stop someone from making a comment. And as you recall, Mr. Wentz, President Wentz just had asked if anyone has a comment, they can email Mrs. Lally. In the future, there's many methods that we could use. We could do Google Hangouts, Zoom, and it could be remotely done for public comment. This notice allows us to, again, to suspend our current policy, but allows us to conduct business with the live stream, and if there's public participation, it can be done in advance, or in the future, if we choose to go Google Hangouts or Zoom, then we could do it that way as well. I think that's really a board preference, certainly not a preference that I would recommend. It's up to the board what you're most comfortable with.
Sure. Okay. Go ahead there. Can you turn your mic on there, Mr. Christian? There, you got it, I think.
There we go. All right. So I don't like that this just is through December 1st, because that's kind of not a, there's not really a definite ending date for if this crisis ends before then. Because I think we're going to see things, the state's opening up in like 2 weeks, or beginning to open up, and I think we'll be fully open well before then. And in general, governments are kind of slow to reopen things, especially when it comes to things that make it so they're held accountable a little bit better. I think in person, having people in the audience looking at us in the eye as they're asking us questions definitely holds us more accountable than emails. So I will not be voting for this, because I also think that as we're sitting here socially distant, we have more than enough space in that auditorium for people to socially distance. I think 2 seats would be about 6 feet, so we could easily have one person every couple seats or couple rows. So I just think that since this is going to make it a little bit harder for residents to hold us accountable, I'm going to be voting against it.
I'll go back. I think this is just dated to go to them, but I'm assuming that, and I also would like to think that we would be back to having people come prior to that. I don't think that, I know for sure it's not my intent to not have people being able to come to the board meetings and being able to ask questions and so forth. But if anybody can comment to that, I think that date was just put in there as that. You couldn't go beyond that date, I'm assuming, is what that date's in there for. But it doesn't hold us to keeping that date once we have the governor's permission to be able to go back and start having people come in. Am I assuming right on that also?
My understanding is you could suspend that at any time up until December, whatever it is, the 21st. Let's hope we don't have to go that far.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anyone disagreeing with what Mr. Christian's saying.
No, I sure am
Right
not
now,
disagreeing.
We're just, in my opinion, and that's up to the board, if you want to fill the auditorium up, you're welcome to do that. I just don't think that's something that the board's wanting to do at this moment. Maybe next month, based on what you have, what the governor's orders are or the changes in terms of phases, maybe next month you're able to do so.
Right.
So I think it would be good to definitely have the choice to email Terry if they don't feel comfortable coming, if they don't feel it's safe. But for those that do feel safe with social distancing, if they want to say something, I think they should be able to be socially distant. Because, I mean, we have, what's the capacity, not right now, but obviously what's like the seating capacity here? I've never really counted, but it's, I don't think we've ever been full. So, yeah,
No,
we have
it's
more
not
than
going, you're right, it's not going to be full. I guess my concern would be, legally, can we do that?
Yeah. Right. I think today, obviously, we're not supposed to be having public in at this right now. So, yep. Okay. Next up would be OHSAA membership participation for the 2021 school year. We pretty much, I'll just speak to that, and if you have anything to add, Mr. Dunn, pretty much have to be a member of the Ohio Athletic Association if we want to participate in any state sports from year to year. Anything else, Mr. Dunham?
I think you covered that. This is something that all schools are mandated if you want to participate in sports under the OHSA umbrella. We would need to turn in our card and have the board resolution. So I would recommend that we do so. Yep.
Okay, at this time, we would, I go to defer to Mrs. Lowry and ask if there has been any emails on agenda items at this time.
Actually, we have a couple emails. First, I'll read the first one and then email it again. On the public participation, why can't this proposition be proposed until after May 1st to see what the governor's plan is to open the state? And why is the end date so far out? If you must approve this proposition, can't you make it to the end of August? And then the person re-emailed, if what Mr. Wins and Mr. Dunham are proposing as to retracting the proposition, why then not make it a shorter end date to see how things turn out? Why jump on it and make it that far out? And then
I can't speak for the board on this other than you're more welcome to adopt or to change. I think if our next meeting is what, May 20th maybe?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
If it's May 20th and you're all comfortable with business as usual, what would stop you from doing that?
Yeah, I'm making the assumption that, and it's May 18th if we go on our third Monday. I mean, if the governor says that we can go back to having not social distancing at the stage that we're doing it, and I mean, I sure have no problem, and I think we can pretty much get that communicated out to folks, just like we've communicated that you aren't allowed to be here, and obviously nobody is. I think we can communicate that out and let people know in advance that you are allowed to be here. I sure don't think that's the intent of anybody on this board or the administration to hold people from coming to the board meetings. That I can speak for myself being the president. You know, if we're allowed to do that, we're sure going to, as soon as we can, we're going to go ahead and relinquish that and go back to as we all want to be normal, I would say.
so on this resolution, we are able to adopt another resolution months out if we need to.
I don't even
adjust
think
the
we have to
dates.
adopt another resolution. I think this resolution is on here because we have nothing in policy saying that we can do this. We've obviously never thought that we were going to experience where we would have to be set so far apart nor have the public here, or obviously none of us would have ever guessed that in our lifetimes we would be without having school for basically 2.5 months. So again, it's sure not my intent, and I can't believe that it's any of the board members here intent to, once this is lifted, just because this is going to December 20th or whatever the date is, that we can't do that. I don't believe, and I'd ask all of you, is that your intent to go back to regular board meetings once we're so allowed?
That's my intent, once we're allowed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Says
Yeah,
I think the December date is just so you don't have to pass this resolution month by month by month
yeah,
by month.
yeah. Well, I don't think, once this resolution is passed, then I don't believe we will revisit the resolution each time. And obviously, I think that. Oh, right, right, yeah, I think based off of what we know at that time, I would agree, yes.
There was no provision in law to allow us to do it this way. And so whenever we decide we don't want to do it this way again, the provision in law is still there to have full meetings like we always had. And so by putting this till December 1st or 15th or 24th, whatever it was, it changes our policy to allow us, from whatever House bill that was, 197, to hold these kind of meetings without every single month redoing it. It does not prohibit us from going back to the original law, which is board meetings are public at any time.
Okay, was there anything else? Question? Okay, non-agenda, okay, but that was all for agenda. Okay, if no other discussion, we'll go back through the agenda items. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the class of 2020 for graduation. Do I have a motion? Amy motions. Do we have a second?
I second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up would be the board policy adoptions that each of us received last month. Can I have a motion to accept those policy changes or revisions? Who moved? Brian? Brian makes the motion. Do I have a second? Taylor seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the bus bid authorization for the 71 passenger bus. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Amy moves. Can I have a second?
Second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up will be the resolution to conduct board meetings via electronic technology during the period of the emergency declared by Executive Order 2020-01. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Terry motions. Can I have a second?
Second.
Amy seconds. And Mr. Phillips, could you please call the roll?
Brian Bagwell? Yes. Taylor Christian? No. Terry Lally?
Yes.
Ralph Wentz?
Yes.
Amy White?
Yes.
Next up, motion carries. Next up would be the membership for the Ohio Athletic Association for the 2021 school year. Can I have a motion, please? Taylor motions. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Terry seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next up would be non-agenda items. And I'll go to Mrs. Lally first. And then if somebody else has anything, we'll come back and revisit that again after the March, April, May district update if somebody needs to get something in here. Mrs. Lally?
Actually, there was an email that was sent in for a agenda item that just came in too. It just, as we were voting, it came in. The person wants to know why we are even considering getting a new bus. We have a third fewer residents per grade than we did 5 to 10 years ago. We need fewer buses and drivers and longer routes to fill the buses we have and save money.
Okay, well, obviously, our buses continue to be kept for 20 plus years. 20. Would be there, and as far as talking about what the routes and the buses, Mr. Dunham, if you have anything to add to that, but I know that we've consolidated routes and tightened those up a number of years ago. But Mr. Dunham, anything else you'd like to add?
I think that's you hit the nail on the head. The age of our fleet. We have buses, some are 20 years old, some are 21 years of age, with hundreds of thousands of miles. We did not purchase a new bus last year, and maybe it's been 2 years now, Mr. Phillips.
I think the year before we did.
Yeah.
We weren't scheduled, I wish I had it in front of me. On the 5-year forecast, I don't think I had one in this year, but I had one in next year because of our aging fleet, and this just helps defer $31,000 of that cost to the state instead of us.
If you're looking at a bus that's in the
No.
mid-80s, 80,000, certainly that 30-some thousand would be a benefit in purchasing a new bus. I think that's a challenge for all districts, whether you have decreasing enrollment, whether it's resident enrollment or open enrollment. We try to run our buses efficiently as possible. That would be a challenge for the board. If you wanted to go with less buses and less drivers, the routes would get longer, certainly. I'm not sure what everyone's temperature is in terms of how long a student should be on a bus, but those are things that you would definitely hear as board members when it starts getting into the range of 45 minutes to an hour. There are some districts that go that far or that long. So that can be looked at, but it does not eliminate the age of the fleet that we have. And that would, one every 2 years, you can't stay up with an aging fleet at that rate.
Now, my understanding on the bus is that we have a grant for $31,000, and that's why we're putting the new bid in to look for a bus is to replace some of the older ones. Is that correct?
Yes.
Since we got that $31,000.
Yep.
So we for sure have, because I think I noticed earlier you said we applied for it. We for sure have that 30,000.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And
It
again,
used to be years ago that when I started in this business, they used to pay half of what a bus cost. And then towards the middle or end of the 90s, they started giving less and less, and it's probably been 20 years now, 15 or 20 years, that they phased it out completely, and they don't help us at all with a bus anymore. Consequently, I'm of the opinion that the legislature passed this the legislation to allow this grant because the fleet ages of all districts, because they don't help you anymore and because school budgets are tight, there's a lot of dangerous buses out there that we can only patch it together so long. And so we have been keeping our buses up by purchasing one every other year. Some years, if we're in a decent situation, we might add and go 2 years in a row. We've been doing everything we can to keep, and our fleet is, in my opinion, Mr. Dunham, extremely safe and in good shape. But when we have bus inspections and they say, well, your cross members underneath are rusting, and this, at some point it costs more than the bus is worth to do the work to keep it safe. But you have to keep it safe. If you don't, they don't approve the bus, and then you can't use it.
And I think the other thing I'll add to that is by the time that bid would come in, next month we will have an updated 5-year forecast as well. Is that correct,
Yeah.
Mr. Phillips? So we will, obviously, again, as I said earlier, we do not have to accept the bid, but it does not cost us anything or hurt us to go out for a bid at this time.
And I am going to do a couple questions that's dealing with the school being closed the rest of the school year, and then also some questions on the seniors. First, I have a couple questions from the parents that since the school is being closed, is there going to be a set time or days where the students can come in and pick up their stuff?
Let me answer it this way. We have, tomorrow we have a meeting at 11 o'clock, and since we just got the governor's orders with the closure of school for the remainder of the school year, we're going to put together by building end-of-year event committees so we can start planning for, we know our students have plenty of belongings in their lockers, and whether it's their school lockers or athletic lockers, a lot of belongings are still here. So we want to bring them in when it's safe and conducive for them to come in and get their belongings. So we're going to itemize all of our end-of-year activities and events so we can honor and recognize kids, from banquets that normally occur in the next 2 weeks, music, athletics, obviously graduation on the 30th, all the things that kids look forward to. We're trying to do our best, whether to hold them virtually or come up with a plan that we can honor them at a later time. So to answer your question is yes, we just need to get together and figure out when is that day. And it kind of goes back to the resolution we passed about electronic board meetings. We had December out there, December of 20. We just don't have a crystal ball to say we can bring, 1,250 kids into the building or even stagger them to come into the building to get their things. So in time, we certainly will do that, and as soon as we know it's safe, we'll get that out to people.
The next question is, are we going to consider an actual pass-fail grading scale for these last 9 weeks?
That also is on our agenda, and we've been talking about that for the last several weeks, and we're not prepared, and I want to be able to talk to the board about this in the future. We're not prepared to make that decision, even though we just got the governor's orders today. I think we'd be presumptive if we were to say we're going pass-fail on April 20th. Not that our kids aren't going to give their very best, but there may be that that time where maybe we're not getting the best out of all of our kids all the time. So we need to talk through what's going to be in the best interest of all of our kids at all grade levels, what's best for our teachers, because this is our 5th week pretty much of remote learning, and we have another 5 to go basically. So we're gonna monitor that, and we will not do anything that's going to hurt kids academically. So we do want to hold them harmless. We're just not sure what is in their best interest on April 20th.
Okay, the next one is from a senior that I am going to read right from her email. Dear South Range Board of Education and Mr. Dunham and Mr. Phillips, my name is Julie Sonafani, and I am a senior at South Range High School this year. I just wanted to thank everyone for everything they have done for me in South Range schools over the past 13 years that I have been there. It is heartbreaking to leave my school this way, but it is for the best for everyone's health. I have so many fond memories of South Range, and I hope that I can return someday. I could not have asked for better teachers or administrators at South Range. I was so lucky to have a safe school that I could go to every day. I hope the class of 2020 can still have a graduation. I would like to suggest the commencement take place, if possible, at some point at Rominger Stadium with social distancing measures. South Range means so much to me, and I would love to give one last goodbye to the school that I have loved for 13 years. Thank you so much for everything. Sincerely, Julie Sonafani, Treasurer of Class of 2020.
I don't think anyone could say it better than what Julie just phrased it in that email. I agree. There's many things that we want to be able to do to recognize not just our seniors, but all of our students. So I can go into my report, or if you have more, we can answer best we can.
Well, I think you're going to address the other ones. The other person wants to thank the staff for their time and effort for the South Range yard signs. And if we have any idea, any type of senior award ceremony, even if they're virtual. And I think you're going to answer all those questions.
Okay, at this time, Mr. Dunham, district update, please.
Okay, so really to start with a comment, and once we heard today at roughly 2:15, 2:20 from the governor what we kind of thought we would hear, that school would be closed, certainly sadness fell upon a lot of people. Only thing I could say, and if they were sitting in here to our seniors, would be, I'm sorry. We feel awful for it. It's no one's fault, of course, and we're doing our best. On March 30th, and also on March 16th, I talked about the need to be mindful and considerate of all the things that we're going through. And I also challenged our board members and treasurer and myself that as school leaders and our employees need to be leaders, and no one's disappointed me in seeing what our staff has done over the last 5 weeks remotely. And when I say staff, I'm talking about classified, certificated, aides. Everyone has pitched in, and to no surprise. We've had a lot of individuals whose world is really, really changing, and every time there's a check-the-box moment like we heard today, that school is closed for the rest of the year, that really adds to some of the issues that we as adults have and also our kids have. Kids are really troubled with the finality of, okay, I'm not going to see my friends the same way that I saw them on March 13th for the rest of my life. The plays, the sports, the competitions, all the things that make a school has been taken away. So we're going to deal with that, and we're going to do our very best to deal with it, because you hear the term in loco parentis all the time in place of parents. That's what teachers do, and that's what board members do and community members do. You pull together. So our safety and health of our grandparents and aunts and uncles, those people have to be taken into consideration. And I don't want to harp on it. We will get back together, and we'll do the best we can when it's safe to do it. And no one wants to open up any more than, well, all of us in here, all of us. So the past 5 weeks, in my mind, has really brought everyone closer together. There's been a lot of challenges, but it's really underscores the importance of a strong community, and a community that sticks together. So we just need to continue to step up and help and lead. So last month I talked about what we did to prepare for COVID-19. I want to just touch on a few things in terms of our instruction and how we deliver instruction. Our staff has really transformed themselves in their homes. And if you were to walk into a staff member's home, it's a makeshift classroom now. They look like the school buildings, like their own classroom. Our staff have permitted students to virtually come into their home, and our students have permitted our staff to virtually come into their home. No one would have thought of this dynamic in a short 5 weeks ago. If you did, you're pretty special, because in my 39 years, I never saw this one coming. I don't know if anyone did. But with that said, how things have changed. And they've changed not always for the worse, but people have pitched in and we've gotten closer. So our certificated and our classified staff, they've provided quality instruction. They've prepared meals. They've delivered meals. They're still cleaning the building, buses. They're mowing. They're preparing buses for inspection for next year. They're spending countless hours on the phone, answering emails, text messages, and really struggling to differentiate between a Saturday or a Sunday and maybe a Wednesday, because the days aren't really any different than the next. So it doesn't stop and it doesn't go away, and that's what I really want this board and our audience to understand, that everybody's doing just extraordinary work. Our admin team, along with many of our staff, have shown a glimpse of themselves that only this situation would allow. And I'll give you some examples. I've known Mr. Zolik for a long time and Mr. Matus for a long time. I've never seen them dance on the stage at this school, let alone dance virtually in their own family room. We've had staff members that take signs around. We have staff members that are doing things I have no idea of that help kids. But if you go onto a South Range Facebook or website, you're going to see some really cool things that have happened. Our administrators, our teachers, our secretaries, our bus drivers, our custodians, our food service, they're all doing many things outside the classroom, just like it's a normal day. We had a business reach out to us last week, GLI Pools, about, hey, we'll give you the material if you can sew the masks. 2,000 masks are on their way back here Wednesday that will go to GLI pools to give to our first responders. 2,000. That happened in less than a week's time. So we have pictures, we have videos that are helping to fill the void of not being face-to-face. And when Julie Senafani mentioned in the email, we'd love to have graduation, if we can't have it inside, at the Ralph Whitmer Field Rominger Sports Complex. You betcha, we'd love to have it there too. If it's safe, we want to be able to do it. So the empathy and the concern that I see that everyone has, I couldn't be more proud. So food service, to digress, food service will continue Mondays and Wednesdays, 5 to 5:30 at the Gate Church parking lot in North Lima, Greenford, Old Greenford School in Greenford, and here at the K-12 complex. Remind you again, Mondays and Wednesdays, 5:30 to 6. So the closing of school, are we prepared for it? I can't say we're 100% prepared, but we will be prepared. Last time we met, March 30th, I asked the board to consider changing and modifying the school calendar, which we did, so that the 5 days that we normally had off for spring break will now be 5 less days that we'll have students attending virtually. So we're looking at, I think that took us to May 26th. That's a Tuesday. It's the day after Memorial Day, which to me, we'll talk through this. I'd ask the board to, can we make it May 22nd? That'd be the last official day for students to and staff to be interacting. So the distance learning plan that I will have for you next time we meet kind of outlines what we've been doing for the last 5 weeks, the time the teachers are spending, how they're spending with staff, or with students, excuse me, what some of the expectations are, and virtually how they're meeting their requirements with their kids each and every day. We talked about alternate graduation dates be past May 30th. June 20th was a date that was put out there, and I don't want to go past that because I think the farther out we go, the less clear it becomes. So I'd ask the board to let's just keep looking to see and take it week to week. But as soon as we can have a graduation, as soon as we can have a banquet to recognize whomever, grade levels, awards day, we have scholarships that need to be awarded from universities and colleges. So there's so many things out there that this committee that I'm putting together for each building will address each concern, and we will push that out via the video taping that I do on Wednesdays and the one calls and all the information that the building level principals and teachers push out on a daily basis. But once we come up with the activities that will be out there that need to be modified, we will share with the community as quickly as possible. Again, social distancing plan isn't just now. We'll be talking with Mrs. Carlson, who will be taking over on August 1st as superintendent, into our board. This is something we're planning also for fall. There has to be a plan, whether it's 100% normal coming back in August and September, or it's a blended hybrid type of remote learning and face-to-face, but there has to be a plan in place for the fall as well as the month of May. Any other questions, anything I can answer that I didn't?
Okay, thank you very much for all that, Mr. Dunham. Just a few words before I ask for a motion for executive session from me and from the board. As Mr. Dunham talked about, if you haven't had a chance to see some of the just very unique ways that teachers are communicating with students and vice versa, students communicating with our teachers, it's just been if nothing else, this trying times has been very uplifting to see how many people, students, administrators, teachers alike, have continued to think outside the box, to communicate, to educate, to do all the things that we so much take for granted. And I, as well as this board, thank you, the parents, anybody that would be watching this either tonight or into the future, for your help and your understanding. Have we done everything 100% and exactly right? The answer would be no. Have we done a majority of the things extraordinary? I think the answer would be yes. Not only is this school district, but many school districts throughout the United States are faced with the same trials, and we can see, week in, week out, day in, day out, all the new ways that people are doing things. I think what it does show us, as we see through this, that no matter how hard we try, and how good the education system would be, that without being in front of teachers and the social interaction that kids have with each other on a day-to-day basis, I don't believe that there's any way that can ever be replaced there. So I think I speak for, I hope, all the board members, that all of us are looking forward to getting back to what we would consider normal, and hopefully at the start of the 2021 school year, a lot of this will be behind us. So again, thank you, parents, as well as staff and administrators, bus drivers, janitors, just all of you, custodians, for everything you've continued to do for this school, and it does not go unnoticed. So with that, I'd ask for us to go into executive session under Ohio Revised Code 121.22 and Board Policy 0166 for the consideration, appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and compensation of a public employee. Can I have a motion to go to the executive session? Amy moves. May I have a second? Brian seconds. Mr. Phillips, could you call the roll?
Taylor Christian? No. Terry Lally?
Yes.
Ralph Wentz?
Yes.
Amy White? Yes. Brian Bagwell?
Board goes into executive session at 7:47 p.m. And just for any of you that are watching online, I have 10 minutes to 8. If we are not going to be back by 20 minutes after 8, I will come out and tell you how long to expect. But 20 after 8, either we will be back or I'll come out and let you know when we will be back. Thank you. We're almost done with the executive session. I would say give us about 10 more minutes and we should be out by 8:30 to come back into regular session there, folks. Okay, we're back from executive session at 8:32. Mr. Dunham, would you like to go through personnel, please?
Yes. Okay, as I mentioned, I do not have any substitutes that we're in need of for the remainder of the year. I have 3 individuals I'd like to recommend for a 1-year limited teaching contract for the 2021 school year. Clyde Beaver, Dan Yegley, who is under Article 7.18 of the negotiated agreement, and also Darlene Willoughby. Granting a 2-year limited teaching contract for 2021-21-22. Mary A., 0.5 FTE, Gianna Marinucci, Katie Adams, Jenny Benson, 0.5 FTE, Lillian Fosacheca, Mark Giese, Susan Koulianis, Samantha McMahon, and Nora Novak. Continuing teacher contract, recommend to Jennifer Amendola. Next, granting a 2-year limited classified contract for the 2021 and 21-22 school years to Carl Tullis, George McDowell, Scott Youngin as a Tier 3 bus driver, Lacey Kramer as a Tier 3 bus driver, and Elena Yankowski. Granting a 2-year limited part-time classified contract for 2021-21-22, Elizabeth Rygert, Jill White, Renee Amir, Sarah Steppen, Michelle Esposito, and Heather Livesay. Also recommending to grant a 2-year contract to Jennifer Lane as the EMIS and Superintendent Secretary, effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2022, and grant a 2-year contract to Brenda Hammond, Director of Transportation, effective July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2022. Also recommending to modify the nutrition group in the South Range Local Board of Education contract to include compensation for the district food service manager for the COVID-19 crisis at a stipend of $500. I have 2 supplemental contracts for both head coaching positions for the 2021 school year, recommending Kelsey Malenik as the varsity girls soccer coach and Todd Irons as the varsity volleyball coach. And as you can see, board members, we have non-renewing of the following supplemental contracts for the 1920 school year, and direct the treasurer CFO to notify these coaches and advisors that it is not the intention of the Board of Education not to renew their supplemental contracts for the 2021 school year. And just out of sheer transparency, these are individuals that are not part of the association but have been kind enough to work for us over the years. These are 1-year non-renewed contracts. If they are interested in that position again for this coming year, they would need to reapply.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept all the personnel that was gone through? Terry motions. Do I have a second?
Second.
Amy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Mr. Phillips, roll call, please.
Taylor Christian? Yes. Terry Lally? Yes. Ralph Wentz?
Yes.
Amy White?
Yes.
Brian Bagwell?
And may I have a motion for adjournment? Taylor moves. Can I have a second? Brian seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries, and we are adjourned for the April board meeting. Thank you all.